Good morning, everyone. Hope you're doing well out there. So today's video is just kind of a quick bit of a share with you about a set of epiphanies I've been having as I've been going more deep into this work. This is just kind of an off the cuff, hey, I'm feeling it, pop on the camera, transmission to you, from me to you. So this is not necessarily a highly organized video, but I do feel that this is probably the most important message I could possibly share with you guys. And so I just want to get on here and share what I've been learning, share what I've been seeing, because I feel like it's going to impact the content that I make on this channel, what I start talking about. And I think it's really the key essential insight or point for you to understand, at least from my perspective and from what I'm seeing about all of this work, you know, whether it's personal growth or personal healing, mental health, thriving in a crazy world, understanding psychedelics, understanding spirituality. There are so many ways that what I'm about to talk about here branches out. And so I wanted to just kind of talk about it, contextualize what I'm going to be talking about in the future, and share with you a bit about what I've been learning. So let's get into it. Okay, so I'm going to just kind of riff here. Bear with me if I ramble a little bit, if I'm kind of all over the place. It's early in the morning where I'm at. I'm still waking up. I'm still caffeinating. My brain is not fully going yet. So bear with me a little bit here. But I wanted to just share with you guys what I'm starting to see and what I'm starting to understand based on all these different kind of points of sampling and reflection and looking at and breaking down concepts. And I'm talking about everything I've been learning from just my coaching practice and my hypnotherapy practice and working with people directly, things I'm learning by just communicating with people online, things I'm learning through all of the medicine work that I've been doing, from all of the studies of various types of therapy and psychology and models of spiritual development and personal development and all of that. The more I take all of this in, the more a particular view is starting to come to light as being absolutely central and absolutely kind of clearly the thing. Okay. So the primary epiphany that I've been having here is that all of this, so much of what we might think of as human issues, human problems, the human condition, why the world is the way it is, what's going on with people, why we have a mental health crisis, why, all of this, how to work with psychedelics, how to work with our spiritual natures, all of this. So much of this boils down to relationships and relational ability, skills of relating. And my distinction here that I'm really starting to fully wrap my head around and grok is that, generally speaking, all of these fucking problems we have, so many of them, the vast majority, dare I say, boil down to the kind of rough truth that most of us just aren't very good at relating, that we just kind of suck at relationship generally as a people, as a set of societies, as a set of cultures. There's a massive deficiency in our ability to skillfully relate. Now, you might be wondering, relate to what? Relate to whom, right? So I want to clarify that I mean both. Externally, in terms of interpersonally, we are bad at relating to other people. And I could get into all the specifics of that, but I want to just kind of stay kind of high level and general with this discussion for now, because this literally could be something I could talk ad nauseum about and could make endless videos about. Okay. But let's just say we are generally really bad. Even those of us that are good at it are really bad at relating to other people, but also equally in the same way, we are really bad at relating to ourselves internally. And this really accounts for everything from trauma to garden variety personal growth issues, to life optimization, to how to navigate media and ideas in the world, to spiritual experiences, relationships to nature, relationships to our own body, relationships to health, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Relationship and skillful relating is really at the center of all of this. and really is kind of the key that unlocks all the things we probably want in our lives. And I do think that, largely speaking, even though our society on one level is kind of fixated on relationships, in particular, getting what we want and finding the right partner and sexuality and, kind of how we consume each other as relationship products. On one level, you listen to pop music or movies or TV, it's all about relationships, right? But the view of that, the understanding of that, is massively distorted and massively unhealthy. And really, I think in a really big way, we intuitively understand what healthy relationships are, but we actually have massive blind spots about this in our culture and in our society. We actually have massive, massive blind spots that this is the thing. And I think because there's a blind spot there around the relational, we tend to kind of distort and redirect our energy and our attention into all kinds of other kind of second order distortions or kind of downstream places where we tend to put our attention that aren't really at the center of their work, which is the relational. There are so many places where this plays out, but I wanted to, also just kind of state the obvious here as I'm talking about this. I want to be clear. I am not perfect at relationships. I screw them up all the time, still myself. To me, it's a work in progress, endlessly. It's an endless learning curve that I'm always working to get better at. I do have people in my life that there's, stuff to work out and clean up with right now. I have had, conflicts and contentious exchanges with people recently. And I want to be clear about that because I think I'm going to start talking more and bringing more of the relational into this channel. Because it's too important, it's too big, it's too central to all of this to not include it. But I don't want to give the frame here that, or give you the impression that I'm somehow perfect at relationship, because I'm not. But I am oriented towards what right relationship, what healthy, clear, good relating is. Okay. And so I want to start to share as I'm learning this and as I'm exploring this and as I'm unpacking all of this with you about that. We do tend to have kind of a weird kind of cognitive distortion in our culture that only people who are perfect at something should teach it. And so I want to kind of speak to this because, of course, this gets projected onto me like it does anyone who's trying to teach anything. And this is really a great example, actually, of kind of a relational distortion that's just obviously not true. There are plenty of people who aren't perfect at something who are really good or really clear about how to understand it or how to teach it that can contribute to people who don't understand a topic altogether. And this is true across the board. And if we were looking for only perfect people to teach topics, then, we'd kind of be without teachers pretty much at all because, who's perfect? Show me a perfect person. They're very rare if they exist at all, right? And so I wanted to be real with you guys that, I will be talking more about relational stuff and relational dynamics. And this is one of these things I've been kind of intuitively chewing on and being like, gosh, I feel like I should talk about this more on this channel. And I've kind of been thinking about maybe I should start talking about more relational stuff on the Insights channel because I have so much to share about relational stuff. And I was like, maybe that's a little off topic from psychedelics and personal healing. But the more I look at this, it's not off topic at all. It's right at the heart of all of this stuff. And so I'm going to be talking more about relational stuff here on the channel. And so concurrently with that, I want to just be clear with you guys that, while we're talking about this and while I'm sharing about this, I'm not making claims that I'm perfect relationally, that I have it all figured out, that I'm always the nicest, kindest, most balanced, most healthy, most optimally, amazingly great human being, and that I'm, never off the mark in the way that I relate. I don't want to give that impression. That's not what I'm saying. But I feel like I've got a good track on a lot of the different dynamics. And as I start to unpack them, you'll start to understand why this is so incredibly, incredibly important to all of this work, this entire discussion. And yeah, and so I'm excited to start to share this with you guys, and I'm excited to start to bring in the relational as a more key piece, because it really is the thing that we all need to start understanding better if we want a better world. And this applies across the board. This applies in our personal lives, with our friendships and our, friend group and communities, with our families, obviously, with our kids, if we have kids, with our teachers, with anybody else who's interested in the same things we're interested in. This also applies, again, internally, with relating to the different aspects of ourself and how we go about that. And this understanding or misunderstanding of how to relate well really does either complicate things or simplify things, either heal things or cause things to not be healthy. And so it's absolutely essential. So I just want to kind of pop on the camera, open my heart up, and share this with you guys, be authentic, be honest with you about this, because it quite frankly blows my mind that, we've gotten this far, that it's 2023, and we don't collectively understand how shitty we are to each other, how much of the time, and how shitty we are to ourselves, how much of the time, and how much that's at root cause for so many of the problems in our world and our society. Let me give a quick example, because again, I know I'm talking high level, kind of broad, general, abstract, and I haven't really kind of grounded any of this. So let me just give one simple example here. If we look at the mental health crisis and, the prevalence of medication here in our modern culture, right? And the way that so many people are doing meds and not really getting the satisfactory results that they would hope to get from taking medication to deal with depression, anxiety, or what have you, right? Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not trained to diagnose. I'm not trained to, offer medication to people, but I am someone who people who have been through the grinder with all this shit come to and go, dude, this shit has failed me, help, So I talk to people all the time about this kind of stuff. Now, what's really clear is that almost every time I talk to somebody about, their current life situation or their upbringing, almost inevitably, there is some relational piece there that is not right, often that we're kind of, dismissing, overlooking, not really giving fair, attention to, that is hugely, implicated in terms of the why of depression, the why of anxiety, the why of, life not being happy and functional and optimal. Almost always there's some sort of relational wounding or, self-relational wounding, like a messed up dynamic with ourselves and our self-perception. There's layers of shame and guilt and judgment and fear and, insecurity and all of that. That's usually, underneath once we start unpacking, these people usually come to me and they don't know why they're depressed or anxious. So it's again, it's a blind spot. It's a thing that is so obvious if you know what to look for, but so many of us don't think that the quality of our relating is as bad as it really is. And then, we wonder why we're depressed or why we're anxious or why we're still carrying trauma. And that's a huge, huge part of it. So then, that's at the root of a lot of why people are going to psychiatrists and therapists to get, SSRIs or, whatever it might happen to be, benzos, to kind of self-medicate or be medicated rather, to start to manage our state, to feel happier, to feel better, to feel more functional in our lives, right? Now, So then we're taking medication, and that doesn't fix any of the relational stuff, obviously. It's just literally a chemical band-aid that kind of maybe helps us to not be totally falling apart or totally a mess enough to kind of carry on. But generally, there's all these side effects with medication, and then this goes on for years and years and years of I'm medicating, I'm going to a psychiatrist, but I still have this issue, and it's getting worse the longer time goes on. And the more distorted it gets, the more my self-relationship gets, painful and warped and distorted, the more that maybe my relationships with other people is kind of out of alignment and not working and disconnected and not feeling right. Maybe I'm too numb. Maybe I don't notice things that I need to notice. Maybe I feel disconnected from my body. Maybe I feel emotionally isolated because the medication's kind of like, like making me kind of blissfully, detached from everything, et cetera, et cetera. And then, that goes on for decades. And, you stack on top of that all the weird kind of reflections and distortions we get from social media, from online culture, from just general social conditioning, the kind of weird social contracts that people buy into that are all based on distorted relating in the first place. And we end up with this society that's en masse kind of mentally ill, bad at thinking, bad at relating, because that never got corrected, and normalizes that, justifies that as if that's okay, in terms of, being dismissive to each other, being rude to each other, bullying each other online, our parents kind of, minimizing our experience or disregarding us, or our family, our brothers, our sisters, or whoever, people who should be our peers and be a part of our peer group and community, be competitive and petty with us. The list is huge and long, and I could rattle off how all of this plays out in quite a lot of detail here, which I'm still organizing how I want to talk about this and weave this content into the channel. But I can't deny that it's incredibly key and incredibly important. It's relational stuff is at the heart of trauma. And trauma, debatably is kind of the massive problem in our society that needs healing and needs fixing, right? That we have an accumulation of unprocessed trauma in our populace at large, and that needs addressing, that needs healing. And this is where, psychedelics are implicated to come in and be a social healing agent, right? But it's not the psychedelic that does the healing, it's the connection that does the healing, and the connection comes from good relating. There's all kinds of examples. I could talk to you about different models of therapy and psychology and change work, and, how those are all built around, safe connection and good relating skills. I could talk to you about, spirituality and how it's a distortion of adapting to having suffering, which is a result of, again, disconnection and, poor relating skills and distorted relating. So, this is one of these topics that, being at the center of things, really, again, branches out in all kinds of different directions. And there's a lot to talk about with it. And I've been encouraged by, clients and people who are like, dude, please talk about the relational side of things more. Talk about attachment. Talk about, self-relationship and all this. There are people who have expressed to me that that's exactly what they need. I haven't talked about it, even though I have a lot of insights and opinions about it. A, because I'm not perfect. B, because I'm not sure that I want to dedicate my life and my work to only talking about relational dynamics and the relational, and I'm not sure that, I'm really comfortable setting myself up as some sort of an expert around this topic. But I do have a lot to say. And the other side of the coin is that there are a lot of you out there who need better maps of understanding for all of this stuff to give you more clarity, more relief, more peace, more of a maybe a better set of ideas on how to approach relating and understand what unhealthy relating is and understand what healthy relating is and how that applies both externally in your life and internally in your life. And so the other side of that coin is that I'm not sure that if I, withhold this information, that that's the right thing either. So the decision I'm coming to here is that even though I'm highly imperfect as a person, even though this is still a learning curve for me and a piece of work for me, that it's worth talking about, that's worth kind of offering my insights around and connecting the dots. Because, in the psychedelic therapy community, and maybe more broadly, the medicine work community, in the spirituality community, the yoga community, kind of these communities that I'm kind of tangentially connected to and have been part of for decades. And even in the therapy community, oddly enough, a lot of the stuff that gets talked about in those worlds, a lot of the worldviews are kind of abstractions, or kind of a little bit, in my opinion, from my perspective, just my view, what I'm seeing, off the mark from the bullseye. They are missing the key fucking central point and talking about this thing over there or that thing over there, rather than really, really honing in on what really matters. So I just thought I'd share all this with you and tune you into this, because if you watch my channel, you like my content, I feel like this is probably the thing you're going to want to know. This is the thing you're going to want to understand, is about relational dynamics and how they tie into all of this, and how important it is to get relational dynamics right in order to heal ourselves, in order to be healthier people in our lives, in the world, for everyone else around us, for all of our relationships, And so, yeah, anyways, I'm kind of rambling, going in circles. So I'm going to wrap it here. But yeah, just know that at the center of all of this, there's a whole huge discussion about relationships and relating, and what healthy relating is. And that we'll be talking about it more here on the channel, and that you're going to want to hear this, because this is really what's going to unlock the healing for a lot of you. Anyways, thank you for listening to me ramble about this for 20 minutes here. If you've watched all of this, much love to you. I hope you're doing well out there. I'm really excited. I've got the insights and the epiphanies of how to do this work has just come so clear for me. And I've got so much to share already. I feel ready to go already. And then on top of it, I'm doing trainings this year. I'm deepening my understanding of somatic therapy and trauma therapy. I'm deepening my understanding of how to successfully and effectively guide people on medicine, and do more than just sit, but really interact in a really skillful way. I've got tons of content on the way for you guys. So do stay tuned for all of that. And I deeply appreciate all of you and the conversation as it unfolds here. And yeah, I wish you all the best, whoever you are, wherever you are. Let's keep going with this. So much love to you. Take care and have a beautiful day.